World Bank says the coronavirus pandemic will continue to hurt global growth through the end of next year. That's as commodity prices continue to soar and governments scale back support for people and businesses. It expects the world economy to grow just 4.1% in 2022 and 3.2% in 2023. That's compared to 5.5% last year. Major economies like the US, China and the Eurozone will continue to feel the pinch from supply chain bottlenecks. Meanwhile, the World Bank expects emerging markets to suffer substantial scarring from output from the pandemic, with investment unlikely to return to pre-pandemic levels before 2024.
At the global level, I think the message is very clear. We need aggressive global cooperation in vaccines, in debt relief, and in climate change. All of these will require global community acting together and taking these challenges seriously and implementing the policies necessary. This pandemic is a pandemic of inequality. It's not just incomes are being affected. You see availability of vaccines. You look at the access to education and healthcare, and of course, the scale of job losses.
I think when we look at what happened in 2021, the world economy did show quite a recovery despite the new Delta waves that hit. The world economy grew at about 5.6% last year. And this year, although we are now seeing these Omicron waves hitting many of the world's largest economies, including the US, the EU, and in the Asia region, Japan and India have also been hit. Nevertheless, they're much more highly vaccinated in the industrial world, in the OECD countries and Asia-Pacific countries now than a year ago. So I think that makes countries a bit more resilient. Having said that, I do think that the first quarter of this year is going to be tremendous disruptions due to these huge surges in the Omicron waves that are hitting many of these countries. We're going to see labor shortages because people have to self-isolate if they're tested positive. And also there's going to be government responses like lockdowns. We're seeing that in China, where despite small outbreaks, the government's pursuing a zero COVID policy. So it's locking down cities where there are outbreaks. So all of these things mean there will be disruption in the first quarter of this year to economic growth. We're already seeing that happening in Europe. And I think that will be more evident also in the US and Asia in the coming weeks ahead. But I think when we look over the course of 2022, we will see progressive improvement in the world economy, partly because of vaccine rollout and also the rollout of booster shots, which improve resilience against Omicron, but also because these new tablets that have been starting to ramp up production are also going to help to bring the pandemic under control. So for this year, for 2022, world growth is expected to be about 4.3% for the year as a whole, although we'll still see this kind of stop-start situation in the early part of this year in any case. I think when we turn towards the Northern Hemisphere spring and summer, the situation should improve because these Omicron waves it seems like they're very severe, but are also very quickly diminishing. At least that's what was evident in South Africa, where it originated. So there is some hope that these waves may ease. There have been huge impacts on many sectors of the economy, particularly sectors like tourism, aviation, which have suffered 2 years of depressionary conditions and are now facing challenges this year as well. Many companies have been heavily disrupted and have accumulated a lot of debt or have failed. Many small to medium enterprises around the world have failed. So there will be legacy issues to deal with even when the pandemic comes under control. And we should also remember that about 100 million people, particularly informal low-paid workers, have fallen into extreme poverty during the pandemic up to now. So those hundreds million people have to rebuild their lives, and that's going to take some years for them to lift themselves back out of poverty.